AI adoption is accelerating worldwide. Today, roughly 1 in 6 working-age adults use AI tools, and 88% of organizations now using AI in at least one business function. But adoption is uneven, and the gap is widening. A recent Microsoft report identifies only 2 countries where more than half the working-age population use AI in the past year: the United Arab Emirates and Singapore. In the UAE, usage stands at about 64%, and in Singapore, just shy of 61%. So why are these countries pulling ahead? And what does AI adoption actually mean?
In practice, where AI actually affects the real economy, it's when it starts to be used by industry, used by employers, used by employees. And so adoption really means a translation of theory to practice, when AI starts to actually change workflows.
Despite its leadership in AI infrastructure and frontier model development, the US ranks 24th globally in AI usage among working-age adults, trailing behind smaller, more digitized economies.
It's a fascinating contradiction that some of the world leaders in innovation are lagging behind in adoption. So the United States, world leader in innovation, really struggles to adopt. And I think that's partly because the things depend differently on size, that innovation really depends on scale. You need resources, you need people, you need that pyramid of talent to be at the forefront. But that size also becomes a problem when it gets to adoption. Size in terms of just the variation across the market, the variation of regulatory systems. You've got the federal structure in the United States. That's a great melting pot for innovation, experimentation, but not really a great platform for coherent adoption.
The UAE and Singapore share a common playbook. Both invested early in nationwide digital infrastructure, both pushed AI adoption inside government first, and tied AI use to productivity, not experimentation.
Maybe 2 things that are unique around what the UAE has done. One is there is as much focus on adopting AI as there is on creating AI. And we see this in global partnerships that they've made, large investment funds that they set up like MGX. They set up a G42 as a holding company to build AI, well before ChatGPT. I think the second thing that the UAE has done differently is around really formally encouraging adoption in a really dramatic way. This involves talking about AI even from schools, but also then working to make AI tools nationally available in some cases. And so all of this makes adoption easier and creates an environment where everyone is adopting.
Singapore, I think, is uniquely positioned to take advantage of AI precisely because we're so small. Small, highly educated, highly connected. Those are kind of ripe parts of an economy that's ready for AI adoption. And I think the government really leaning into AI offers a good example of positive use cases, and it means that the government is walking the walk as well as talking the talk. They're not just telling industry, you should use AI. They're showing industry that we are using AI in a productive way.
But even in leading countries, conversation is shifting. Not long ago, the story was about AI's potential. Now the focus is on something harder: making it work at scale. McKinsey found that nearly 2/3 of organizations are still stuck in the experimentation or piloting phase. Only about 1/3 have begun to scale AI across their enterprise.
When we look at the ones that are being able to show real value that they've created from it, it's barely 10%. So there is a real gap between initial adoption, experimentation, and value creation. Pilots almost are always successful. And what we find is that the companies that are effective in scaling AI and getting value from AI are the ones that don't treat AI as a side project. They're the ones that put it in the core of their business.
I once had a professor, Adam Roberts, who used to say that when you were writing an essay, you could tell if someone had taken a theory and just sprinkled it on top, like curry powder sprinkled on top, as opposed to cooking it through. And I think AI adoption is a bit like that. You can sort of sprinkle on some AI, add some generative AI images or something, and then claim you're an AI-first company. I don't think that's really transforming anything. What's really seeming to work is when industry, when employers empower their employees to experiment with AI, to approach existing workflows creatively, think, okay, well, what could be accelerated? What could be made more efficient?
This is also changing how investors evaluate companies. Rather than rewarding cost-cutting or layoffs, many are now watching how firms bring workers forward into AI-driven transformation.
Leading companies are the ones that are bringing employees along at every step of the way. Our research shows that for every $1 you're spending on technology, you have to be spending at least $3 on training, adoption, change management. There aren't very many jobs that get entirely replaced by AI, but almost every single job is going to be significantly affected and changed because of AI. The more that companies involve their employees in the journey and invest in training them and supporting them, the more companies are able to scale AI.
The dilemma for both companies and for government is that the fastest way a company can transform is by trying to replace employees or replace junior employees. And I think that's a very short-sighted approach. I understand the temptation in the short term to cut costs, and in particular to cut entry-level costs. But many industries are now realizing that if you do that, you might get some short-term gains, but you undermine your long-term sustainability. Because if you don't have entry-level people coming in, sure, you might only need a smaller number of senior people, but where does that next generation of senior people come from if you aren't training up the next generation? So the industries that I think will hopefully take advantage of AI and succeed in the longer term are the ones that are willing to see AI not as a short-term fix to replace cheap employees, but a longer-term solution that will maximize the productivity of all of their employees.